You clicked because someone told you you need a £3,000 nocturnal bat survey, and you're wondering if it's even necessary. Well, let me tell you, in most cases, actually, it probably isn't. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I'll break down when you actually need a bat survey and when consultants are just, well, they're just paddling the quote, they're just padding things out. Stay with me because what I'm about to share could literally save you thousands. Let's go. Hi folks, happy Monday or Friday? Monday or Friday? When does it go out? Monday. Happy Monday. We batch record these and it's currently, I don't even know what day it is today, Wednesday. So yeah, this is the second one in, so it's all going well. Right, folks, in this episode, we're just going to talk about bats. We are just coming to the end of the bat survey season, and I want to address the elephant in the room, which is the amount of money that bat surveys cost. But before that, it's time for this. Hi folks, it's time for You Couldn't Plan It, the feature where me and my team have scoured the internet for stupid, silly and downright infuriating planning related facts. Let's go. I really need to fix that jingle. So, and I'm not singing on the next one. In this episode of You Couldn't Plan It, the one I've got in front of me here, and you might have heard this because this goes back a few months now. In fact, 4 or 5 months old, I think, this one, but it's worth just touching on. And this is to do with the oak tree at Enfield, which was a veteran tree that has been felled, and it was adjacent to a pub car park, a Toby Carvery car park in North London, and there's been some questions around the land and all that kind of good stuff. I'm not 100% sure why they felled it. It was a veteran oak tree. It wasn't in particularly good condition, but what normally happens with veteran trees, folks, is that we look to exclude people from around the tree so that the tree can start to fall apart within its own crown spread. And this investigation that's been started, it's been announced by the Junior Environment Minister, Sue Hayman. This was 5 months ago. I mean, she's probably changed posts now, who said the felling of the 500-year-old tree in Enfield earlier this month was horrifying. She spoke at the House of Lords and said it's opened up a nerve in this country about how important it is that our really ancient trees are properly protected. Right, I'm going to get on my soapbox here. So, in one hand, the government is talking about how disgusting it is that the Sycamore Gap tree was felled. They're talking about how disgusting it is that this oak tree was felled. But at the same time, they're trying to push through the Planning and Infrastructure Bill, which removes all protections for our wildlife as it stands at the moment in the UK. So, yeah, do as I do, not as I say, seems to be the case there. Mitchell's and Butler's Retail, which runs Toby Carvery, apologised for the upset caused by the felling and claimed it was necessary for safety reasons because the tree was dead or diseased, which is often the case with veteran trees. Trees don't live forever and they don't stay in the same condition. The investigation that's going on at the moment is expected to challenge that assertion, and the Forestry Commission has powers basically to sanction unauthorised felling. They can impose fines, and they can potentially also launch a private prosecution. Hayman, the minister, said Toby Carvery said the tree needed to be felled because it was already dead and posed health and safety concerns. The Forestry Commission is now carrying out the investigation into exactly what happened and whether the tree was dead or not. If you know the area at all, Windsor Great Park, I did all my tree surgery training there many, many years ago when I went to Merriswood College. And we used to go to Windsor Great Park and we used to climb these huge veteran oak trees and take out bits of dead wood and give them a bit of a prune and all that sort of stuff. And that is how veteran trees are generally managed, and you'll see, particularly in Windsor Great Park, they I'll see if I can get Kian to find a photo and put it up in the video, but the big large veteran trees there, they put a wooden fence around them to exclude people, to keep them away, and then they can let the tree do what the tree is designed to do. So it'll be interesting to see this. There hasn't been a outcome to this yet, as far as I'm aware, and this article is 5 months old now, as I say, but they are also, the Forestry Commission, are looking at recommendations from a report by the Tree Council and Forest Research about ancient and veteran trees. So it'd be interesting to see how that one pans out. So now back to the episode. Bat survey scam. Are you being ripped off? So you may have been told that you need a £3,000 nocturnal bat survey, and you're wondering if it is even necessary. So I guess first we need to spend a little bit of time talking about what is a nocturnal survey. So the first stage is possibly to consider why you need a bat survey in the first place. So what is the trigger for a bat survey? Well, the trigger for a bat survey is if you're doing any work to the external fabric of the building, particularly at kind of 2-story level, although it's not unheard of to bats to roost much lower to the ground. And bats will exploit pretty much anything within your property to roost in. So you might have holes in the soffits, you might have slipped tiles, damaged barge boards, things like that. And the most common type of bats that we see in a domestic location, up to fairly modern houses, are common and soprano pipistrelles, and these are little tiny small crevice dwelling bats, and they land and they crawl up and they exploit these tiny little areas. And we're not going to get deeply technical into this, but the very first thing that you need is, if you're doing this external work to your property, is you're going to get asked by the local planning authority for what's known as a PRA, or a preliminary bat roost assessment. And the preliminary bat roost assessment, basically we do a desktop study of available resources to see what records there are of bats within your local area. Once we've got that information, what we do with that then is a surveyor will come out to site and they'll look at the external fabric of the building. They might put a drone up and do some drone photography and videography of the roof to see if we can spot any slip damaged tiles, any potential roosting features. And they'll also go into the loft void as well, if it is possible, and they'll be looking for evidence of bats. But it's not always about evidence. It may well be that they don't find any evidence of bats within the property, but the property does have potential roosting features. And what happens at that stage when the report is being written up is that your property is classified on a sliding scale from low, medium, high potential to support bats. If it's got low potential, you might only need one nocturnal survey, and I'll come on to those in a moment. If it's moderate, you need 2. If it's high, you need 3. Okay. If when they're doing the external or external survey, they see evidence of bats like droppings, feeding remains, maybe even bats within the building at the time of survey, your building automatically becomes high potential, or it's a confirmed roost, and it will need 3 emergent surveys. Now, these emergent surveys are the nocturnal surveys. They're done at night. They start half an hour before sunset, and they go through to 1.5 to 2 hours after sunset, because different species of bats emerge from their roosting places at different times during the night. So that is a nocturnal survey, and basically surveyors will come out to site, they'll position themselves around your building, they'll be equipped with bat detectors, infrared cameras and thermal cameras, and they'll monitor the building to see whether any bats emerge. If they do, and your building was previously assigned a rating of low potential, you would be upgraded to high, and you would need 2 further surveys. So that's what a nocturnal survey is. How much does it cost? Well, it depends. And you knew I'd say that. It depends on the size of the property, the complexity of the property. And the reason I say it depends is not to be deliberately vague. It will be anywhere from £1,300 to £1,400 plus VAT for one survey with 2 or 3 surveyors, up to many thousands of pounds, depending on the amount of equipment and people that are needed to be deployed. Because not only do you have camera systems monitoring the building, but you also need human beings with bat detectors as well. And this kit is incredibly expensive, and it's also deployed in the middle of the night as well, so that quite often involves convoluted travel arrangements, it involves potentially hotel stays, etc. So it can get very, very expensive. And also at the end of the survey, so they might only be on site for 3 hours, but after the survey you've got bat detector records to assess from maybe 3, 4, 5 different bat detectors, and you've also got hours and hours of video footage to review as well. So it's very involved, and that's why it costs so much. I guess the final thing here to talk about, because a lot of people do feel that they're being ripped off by these protected species surveys, and a particular area of friction is when your report says that there was no evidence of bats at the property, no evidence whatsoever, no droppings, no feeding remains, nothing. But there might be a couple of slipped tiles, which means that your property is low potential. And the reason the ecologist is always trying to prove absence. They're not trying to prove bats are there. They're trying to prove they're not there. And they need scientific proof to do that. And that scientific proof has to comply with the relevant standards. So if you've got no evidence whatsoever and you've got low potential, you will still need one nocturnal survey. The only time you're not going to need a nocturnal survey is if you've got no slipped, broken tiles, your soffits, your barge boards are all in really good condition, and there's no way for anything to access the property. So it might be quite a modern property. And what I tend to do in those circumstances, if the client sent us some pictures of the property and it's clear that it's in brilliant condition, then it may well be that just a simple letter to the local authority saying that it's got the property's got negligible potential is the way to go. So that's that. I've explained there what is a nocturnal survey, why it costs so much, and what happens when there is no evidence of bats, but it is low potential. So before we wrap this one up, we've got one more feature for you, and this one is... You've got the questions, the planning system's a nightmare. We have got the answers. Welcome to the Planning Permission Panic Line. Yes, folks, Planning Permission Panic Line. So let me have a look on here and see if we have got anything in here bat related. And we have. We've got one here from Zainab in Harrogate. Asks, we're demolishing a small barn. We're demolishing a small barn. Do we need a bat survey before we knock it down? Is this not the best music ever? Yeah, we're demolishing a small barn. Do we need a bat survey before we knock it down? Yes, essentially. Regardless, so this is a really good one actually, Zainab. This is a really good question. So most people think that they only need protected species surveys if they're having a planning application. The planning application's going through. That's not the case. There is a legal responsibility on you to ensure that protected species aren't harmed, regardless of whether you need planning consent or not. So you will need. If it is a barn, I would suggest you're probably going to need at least one emergent survey rather than a PRA. What we're recording this at the beginning of October, so you've missed this year's season, Zainab. You will need to probably get a preliminary bat roost assessment carried out and a nesting bird survey carried out before you do any demolition. So I would recommend that. You could have a PRA done now, but it's depending on the makeup of the barn. It's highly likely that the ecologist is going to say you're going to need at least one bat activity survey. So I would suggest that probably you're looking at May next year, really, before you can push forwards with that one, Zainab, which I'm sure is not what you want to hear. But what else have we got here? We've got one here. Here's one about bats. Vicky in Gloucester asks, what does a bat emergent survey involve? Is it invasive or disruptive? So I've probably answered that in this episode, Vicky, but essentially, no, it's not invasive or disruptive. The consultants are stood outside the property. They don't need to come into the property at all unless we're doing a preliminary bat roost assessment ahead of the emergent survey. Sometimes, some ecology firms do it, some don't. If we're fairly certain the property is going to need an emergent survey, then we will do the PRA beforehand. So then the consultants would need to access the property, but otherwise, no, it's not disruptive at all. You won't know they're there. They'll sneak in, do their thing, and sneak off. And depending on the time of year, will depend on sunset, and that what you can work out from that how long they're going to be on site. If it's June, July time, then obviously they could be there till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. If it's May time or September time, then they're probably going to be done by 9 o'clock at night. So let's have a look. How are we doing? 14 minutes. Have we got time for one more, or shall we wrap this one up? I can't see anything else bat related. Let's wrap this one up, folks. So what have you learned on this? So you should have learned what is a nocturnal survey. I should have given you a little bit of information on what it costs. I've talked a little bit around evidence and potential, so hopefully that's helped clarify things a little bit there. And at the end of the day, here's what you actually need, and what you actually need is that preliminary roost assessment first. It's a visual inspection, photos, and then reasoned judgment as to outline what the next steps are. And from our perspective, certainly only if we find credible potential do you go further in that process, because at the end of the day, that is proportional, scientific, and defensible. So that's all from me this week. I'll catch you on the next one.